afternoon meeting of the Public Works Committee. We'll start by Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Ms. Hogan on the motion, Mr. Dickinson on the second. We're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Kevin, would you like to start with Parks and Rec?
We'll start with Parks and Rec.
Okay. Parks and Rec, request notice of intent to fill position of building maintenance worker number 8 due to a promotion. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Garrity on the second. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of filling the position signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 2, extension of existing contract rationale for the South Warren Snowmobile Club and the City of Glens Falls. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this item forward for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Garrity on the second. Any discussion?
Would you say the club was?
It's the South Warren Snowmobile Club in the City of Glens Falls.
I think it goes through the watershed, right?
Yes.
Yes, West Mountain Road.
No, stop and pick up center.
All righty, are we all set? All right, all those in favor of approving it signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Amend the county budget due to a donation. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion. Mr. Garrity on the second. Kevin, what do we have here?
I'll actually turn it over to Tim for this one if you don't
All right,
mind.
Tim? Sure.
Mr. Lewis donated again this year. It's an annual thing he's been doing for several years now.
And we certainly appreciate that. And without objection, we certainly would ask the clerk of the board to send a thank you letter
Thank you, Larry. Yes,
to
please.
him.
Thank you.
Great volunteers there up beyond it. All right, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of the amending the county budget and applying the donation signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. Miscellaneous resolution to fund railroad repair and maintenance. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Garrity on the motion, Mr. Thomas on the second. Kevin, what do we have here?
This was to replace the well pump at Thurman Station.
One more time.
Well pump at Thurman Station.
Well pump at Thurman Station.
Correct.
Any questions for Tim? Kevin?
I just wanted to add on that real quickly with this is this is similar to what I said about the detention building. We don't have a lot of funding in the railroad because basically we're not doing anything with the railroad. So again, what's typically in the budget for the railroad is for any of the water sewer taxes and such. We actually just had, as you all know, last year, or was it last year, Tim, or maybe the year before, we had our consultant / contractor basically tie up all our signals basically so that they wouldn't come down and put them all on trickle charges. We actually just got a call out the other night that one of our arms or gates came down for the Route 8 up in Riparius. So we had to do an emergency call out because Tim and I are not, or none of our department is qualified to go up there and work on that equipment. So we had to have that contract come back in, which cost us $418, which again, we don't have budgeted for because we weren't putting anything in the budget for the railroad because we weren't doing anything with it. So that's the reason we're taking it out of reserve. There is money in the railroad reserve. Not that that's what it was. This was typically what it was made for, but this is the reason why we're taking money out of the reserve to do the well. And eventually we'll probably have to come back and do that for the repair to the gates or to lock the gates back up again.
All right, you've heard the explanation. Any further discussion, Ms. Leggett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thurman Station, isn't that closed? Is there water still working there?
No, we have Rev Rail that's using it.
Oh,
Yes.
So I got the station ready for them.
Which is a revenue stream, isn't it?
Correct.
Correct.
Works.
Are we ready for the question then?
I have a question.
Mr. Garrity.
Should we not set a small dollar amount where we allow the DPW superintendent to be able to make these minor repairs or out of the reserve? I mean, to take time to do a 500, what is it, 40 some dollar donation for a water pump, and then you got to do a call out. And then I don't think we hold the vendors up paying them, but we could hold a vendor up for coming out. Shouldn't we set an allowance maybe of $1,000 or $2,000 for authorization for him to take it out of reserve to meet these miscellaneous, as long as they're reported on at the next Parks and Rec committee.
I certainly agree with that. Is the reason is you just don't have a budget code to go to? Is that the reason?
That's correct, because it's not budgeted for because we weren't operating or
So
doing
it's
anything.
not a
with the road.
question of authorization. It's a question of that you don't have any money in the
Correct.
code. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So why don't we do this, Mr. Garrity? We'll act on this today, but why don't you come back next committee meeting, perhaps with some type, work with Frank, some type of general transfer so that these types of items can be dealt with under general maintenance.
Okay.
I think that's a great suggestion. If that's acceptable.
It's acceptable to me. I just, want Frank, how much is in the reserve and see what's a reasonable amount. I mean, as long as it's reported on after the fact.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, and Frank probably doesn't have it in front of him, and I think the last time that I checked with my fiscal manager, there's probably give or take about $180,000 in that railroad reserve, 170 to 180.
Go on a hayride.
But I think if you do come back, if we could put a little bit aside so that you can handle this like you do all the other purchases in your department. You report it out what happens, and you meet the purchasing requirements, and that way we're not holding you up for a month or two getting a pump. That's, especially when we have contractors that we lease space to. That's not good. Mr. Leggett?
Yeah, thank you. So, under the 7113.4 code, you have about $35,000. So can you just move some of that over into that sub code of the 4.413?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Supervisor Leggett? I didn't hear the beginning part of that.
Yeah, under your expense code 7113.4, contractual expenses for the railroad, it's adopted budget 35,000.
Yes, and that 35,000 is pegged for, under the .4 codes for something, whether it be for contracts that Tim has for some of the consultants he used, whether it's for purchase of fish food, whether it's purchase for, or for paying for his utilities. All that we budgeted in that budget code that you see under .4 is for something. There's not a lot of fluff or extra money in there. So we could take it out of one of those .4s, but then I still have to come back to committee to put money back into that .4.
All right, so we'll expect you back at the next meeting with some type of appropriation and budget transfer. Work it out with the budget officer and whatever is agreeable. All righty? Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of the request to purchase the well pump signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Chairman, I have a quick question.
Andrea?
Was the failure mischief or was it just the pin?
Lack of use,
Pardon?
lack of use. The pump.
No, I'm sorry, on the arm at the repair it.
We don't know.
Explanation.
Just got the call from the sheriff's office that it came down.
Then it came down, whether it was a large truck, sometimes will trigger that. We had no explanation why it came down.
It's,
We don't tie them up? Sorry.
No, we don't.
Saratoga Engineering, railroad specialist signal. For FRA regulated, so you can't touch it legally. Myself, Kevin.
Okay, the next item is the resolution to amend the fee schedule for Up Beyond the Farm. What's this about, Kevin?
So over this past year, we lost a lot of revenue at Up Beyond the Farm because of the pandemic and rightfully so. We didn't expect we were going to get that. We haven't had that much, going into this year. We don't foresee reaching our revenue total that we had in the budget for this year, which Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere about $35,000. One of the things that they have done with some of the grant funding that they received is they've done some kind of virtual programs, videos. They've also done a little bit of outreach, but the outreach that we used to have in the Schedule A was, I think, $125 an hour. We're proposing, so I'll go down the line real quick, for virtual programs or some of these videos that Karen and her staff can do there. We would propose that they do these virtual programs at, basically $50 for the program. So a school might call up and say, hey, we cannot bring kids to Beyond because we're not allowing that yet, but we know that you have these programs. let's do a program with you. So they could do a virtual program with that school. So it'd be just for that one program, $50. They could do a virtual program, 6 programs for $250. The other one, as I said, is the outreach. Typically it's $125. We're proposing to change it. So it's $125 within the county. It's $150 outside the county because of course there's a little bit of travel. Some of those is we've gone down to Moreau to their garden center, their areas down there to promote some of the environmental programs down there. So again, it takes a little bit more to drive down to Moreau. So we think we should be able to cover that cost with raising that to $150 an hour. And then whether it's inside or outside the county for one of those outreach programs, every additional hour beyond that would be $75 an hour. And we've never done that before. We just had like $125 and that was the fee. Yep.
Let's bring this forward for discussion purposes. Do I have a motion to bring this forward? Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Garrity on the second. I assume this is something new we can adjust as we go forward when we have some experience with it.
Yep. And we've always done adjustments to the Schedule A throughout the years. Something else comes up, something changes. So we look at it kind of every couple of years to see if there's adjustments we can make. This one in particular was more so just because of what took place over this past year. And we don't know how schools are going to react next year, whether they're going to even have the funding to put, to allow kids to go on these type of programs that used to come there.
Okay, any questions for Tim or for Kevin? Andrew?
Are these suggestions made in consultation with the director at Upyonda?
These came from the director at Upyonda.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ben?
Thank you. I would just ask you to add BOCES to the list of Warren County school districts if you include that.
Kevin?
One of the things that we, in consultation with our educational administrator at Upyonda, was to start doing more reach out to schools to see what they're going to be doing over the next couple of years. BOCES being one of them as well.
Right.
A lot of I think a lot of that contact, I don't want to necessarily say got lost, but it just kind of went by the wayside because nobody was doing anything. So we've asked the administrator up there to really start, I don't want to necessarily say hammering schools, but really reaching out to them and saying, hey, how about either these virtual programs where we want to get you guys back, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, then you'll report back how.
We will.
Okay. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of amending the schedule signify it up yonder, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The referral pending items, did you want to discuss that, item 5?
I'm not sure that there's much to discuss about unless Supervisor Hogan wants to add where the town board is at with those properties at the railroad.
Dara was supposed to survey the property late last week, so I'm waiting for the result.
Okay, so that's moving forward.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Privilege of the floor, anyone wishing to address the committee regarding Parks and Recreation and Railroad? Mr. Leggett?
Thank you. As I drive by the repair station, just want to commend the county for keeping up that building and the grounds. I saw them out there very early this year, cleaning up all around there. That is a beautiful historic station and a pride of the county. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Don, anything from the public on Parks and Recreation and Railroad?
I have a question.
That's not Mr. Garrity?
What about the email came through about the abandonment? Did somebody discuss that?
We can discuss that here if you like. We did receive correspondence from the county attorney, which we sent out. I've got a copy of it here of the STB decision. Mr. Twilliger, if you'd like to just basically give us the what the order is.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Surface Transportation Board has basically held the abandonment proceeding that was started by the New York State DEC in abeyance until September of this year. And They're just deferring to the bankruptcy court in Colorado, where the San Luis and Rio Grande Railroad is in a bankruptcy, and the San Luis Rio Grande Railroad owns the Saratoga North Creek Railroad. So, and that's also in a bankruptcy out in Colorado. The San Luis Railroad was an involuntary bankruptcy that was started by the creditors there. And the Saratoga North Creek Railroad was a voluntary bankruptcy started by the trustee. That's William Brandt out of Chicago, Illinois. And no surprise there, the Surface Transportation Board has been deferring to the bankruptcy court all along since the bankruptcy case started. They're going to wait and see if the bankruptcy court or the trustee really can basically sell the rights to use the tracks there from just north of the North Creek Station up to DeHaas. That's considered an asset of those track rights that the Saratoga North Creek Railroad has. That's an asset of that railroad. And they're going to give him a lot of chance to see if he can sell those assets. He has 18 months to file a Chapter 11 plan once the bankruptcy petition is filed, and it was filed back in March of last year. So he would have until the end of September of this year to file his plan, and that coincides with the Surface Transportation Board abeyance. So it looks like they're just deferring to the bankruptcy court and going to give him that full amount of time to come up with the Chapter 11 plan and see if he can sell that asset of the Saratoga North Creek Railroad. We'll find out more what's going on with it. And I get updates from the bankruptcy court too. So far, there hasn't been anything special there. The trustee is saying he has some potential sales in the works. None of them have ever materialized yet. I've heard this for the last few months and nothing's materialized. So I don't know if anything real is going to come along that way. If it does, I'll definitely let you know if anything substantial does come to happen that way. If there is a sale that takes place of those track rights or anything like that, or if for some reason the case were dismissed in the bankruptcy court or anything of that, or if the Surface Transportation Board issues a new order or anything, I can let you know, definitely.
Yeah, I'll just read item 2. It says the trustee shall file a status report by September 30th, 2021, and shall promptly notify the board, Surface Transportation Board, if a sale of SNCR occurs or the bankruptcy proceeding concludes prior to that date. And I've got here, just looking at it. Supervisor Bramer?
Thank you, Chairman Conover. Thank you. I know that there was some, this is kind of early since the STB is continuing this day. So I don't think we need to take any action today, but I would like the committee to start thinking about some advocacy that we can do on behalf of the county to try to get the abandonment to actually move forward, because like was just stated by Mr. Terwilliger, there have been some buyers that are popping around, but nothing has come to fruition. And we've looked at this, we put the RFP out for an operator, and we had a very serious contender who ended up pulling out once they were able to do some additional research on the status of the line. And that brings me to just a couple of points about the delay that the STB is allowing here is directly impacting the ongoing decay of the railroad line, because it isn't being maintained by Warren County as a freight rail. So I'm not sure if the northern portion were ever sold to an operator, who is going to be responsible for upgrading all of the line and maintaining it again and bringing it back into a form that would be usable. I don't think that should be solely on the county alone. I think the operator would have to put some money into that, but I also think it will result in some responsibility falling on the county, which I don't think we should have to bear any of that responsibility. But the other indirect impact is that if we are forced to have a freight line over our railroad, it is going to have an adverse economic impact on the towns that are already enjoying the benefit of the non-freight use of the rail line, like the RevRail operation, which I understand from Supervisor Hogan is bringing in a significant amount of tourists in the summer, and actually surpassing the tourists that are coming for rafting alone. And they're actually doing, joint adventures where they're doing rafting one day and then doing RevRail the next day. And I think that actually that's bringing more to our local economies than just a single freight train that would be barreling through their towns, which I will mention, you know, I think that actually has an adverse impact to have a freight train rumbling down through our local communities. And perhaps if it's in the middle of the night, I mean, that no one enjoys hearing that going right through their backyard. As we all know, there are some properties where the rail line really is only a few feet from their property, their residences or their businesses. So anyway, this is all to get the committee to start thinking about, maybe we do need to put out another piece of advocacy to the STB, asking them to not stay the proceedings any longer and to go forward with the adverse abandonment. And perhaps we can reach out to DEC and see if they are willing to join us in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we can do that. I think that we pretty well made, the board by resolution made its position pretty clear relative to the property that we own, the rail line that we own. But this is a long process that the STB's been involved in. And I mean, to say it succinctly, you have people that maybe have items that maybe they want to haul, and you've got people that would like to haul their items, but I'm not sure they're lining up for people that want to own a rail line. And fundamentally, that's the issue. And I think that STB is pretty well aware of that. If they were, I think that they'd already be responding to the STB one way or another. But I think the abeyance till the 30th is their decision, and so we're at least have to wait till the 30th to see if the bankruptcy trustee comes up with anything. But I certainly would welcome any committee member, perhaps at the next meeting, if you'd like to shoot a resolution to the board relative to our position on this. I'm certainly prepared to act once again in terms of my vote. And so I would entertain the pleasure of the committee at any time in that regard. All right? Okay, well, thank you. Craig?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to get a clarification. Attorney Twilliger, you had said rights. Is that line based on rights, or is it a fee? Simple.
Oh, it's an interesting thing. It's actually a little bit of history on it. The Saratoga North Creek Railroad doesn't own those tracks in fee outright. It owns the rights to use them. The U.S. government condemned that area in 1942, and for building a railroad to get up to the DeHaas area for mining. I think lead was the big product they wanted out of there at that time. And those track rights will expire, I believe, in 2042. It was a 100-year condemnation. So whoever gets it now will have the rights to use that for another 21 years to run a train on it. After that, it reverts back to whoever the original owners were in 1942, or their heirs and successors, whoever they are. That's an interesting legal project to try to find out who they are. So it doesn't own it outright. So that kind of diminishes the value of it. I mean, you're really buying the rights to use the tracks for 21 years, not the same as buying it outright permanently. I mean, to me, it makes it maybe a less attractive asset than it would otherwise be.
Thank you. All right, can we, given the hour, can we move along to Public Works? Kevin, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move right into Public Works. Request number one, authorize the superintendent to proceed with eminent domain for the Bay Ridge Bridge project. Chair, I'll entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Thomas, Ms. Hogan on the second. Kevin, what do we have here?
So just to touch base real quick with everybody, I don't want to go to eminent domain. This is just this is a way to allow us to move forward with the project. Typically what ends up happening with eminent domain, we do a public hearing, and after the public hearing, then we make our offers to the property owners. And in reality, it protects the property owners because we give them a fair market value and based on the federal guideline. I don't think we're going to have to do that with this project. This is just in case. We have a couple large companies, well, one in particular large company to deal with down there on the Bay Road project, which is Lowe's. And it's not Lowe's local. There's no person over at Lowe's that we can go talk to. It goes to, Lowe's National, wherever that may be. And they're all what they would consider de minimis property takes. And some of them are temporary easements. Some of them are permanent easements, and I believe 2 of them are fees. One of them would be for the town of Queensbury fee, and the other one would be for Lowe's fee. And the one for Lowe's, it's about 566 square feet. It's not very big. So again, we're hoping we don't have to do this, that we, through our normal process of making offerings with our consultants, that it's not very big. Get a hold of everybody. But the bottom line is, we're not sure that we're going to be able to get a hold of, and have somebody responsive at Lowe's to turn it around fairly quickly at a national level. So this provides us the opportunity. You can see the resolution is tabbed. It basically allows us exemptions from the hearing based on Article 2 of EDPL.
All right, heard the explanation. Right, have we brought this forward? Okay, we brought this forward. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of authorizing superintendent to proceed with eminent domain if necessary on the Bay Road Bridge project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 2, increased capital project H390, transfer of the 2021 budget allocation for bridge and culvert projects. Kevin, what's this?
This is just the money that's normally in transfer to capital projects that we expected and budgeted for last year to move into our bridge project, bridge capital project, which is H390. So this is that will allow us to do our in-house, bridge repairs with that funding.
Okay, Chair, I'll get a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Thomas, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Any further discussion? Are we ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 3, notice of intent to fill position, MEO position due to a promotion. Chair, I'll get a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Andrea Hogan on the,
Can we move 3 and 4 together?
Mr. Dickinson, 3 and 4. Motion on 3 and 4 together. Andrea Hogan on the second for Supervisor Hogan for moving 3 and 4. Any discussion on items 3 and 4? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving items 3 and 4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 5, miscellaneous resolution, new S&I contracts, authorizing our agreement with various municipalities for snow and ice removal. Chair, I'll get a motion to bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Thomas on the second. This is an annual occurrence where the counties take care of the county roads for snow removal, ice removal. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving item 5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Amend existing grant to add the construction phase funding of H396 East River Drive Call Street project. Kevin, what's this?
So the next 3 resolutions will go together. I'm sorry, probably the next 4 resolutions will go together. The first one is to amend the existing grant. We received the supplemental agreement from DOT for the funding portion of the project. So this would be able to add that into that capital project. The second one, that's the amended grant. The second one would be to increase the capital project based on that funding. The third one would be to amend the existing contract with our consultant to do construction inspection and support for that project. And the final one would be a new contract to award for the construction to the lowest responsive bidder. We do not have a bidder yet. The bids will be in before the board meeting, so I will have a contractor as well as the tab sheets before that board meeting.
And you'll have that out to the full board before the meeting.
That's correct.
All right, Chair, I'll entertain a motion to bring the items 6, 7, 8, and 9 forward. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Thomas on the second. Thank you. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving 6, 7, 8, 9 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You want to move into discussion items, Kevin?
Yes, so I'll run through them real quick. We have 4 federal aid projects that'll be starting this year. Palisades Road Bridge late this summer, just because of the not able to, there was a very long lead time on steel. As you all know, we awarded it back in April, but the contractor informed us that we would not get steel for that project until almost September. Oxbow Moon Hill Road will start soon. We're just waiting on some concurrence from DOT, and that's a road preservation project. East River Call Street, will also start soon. And again, that's a road preservation project. And the last one on there is the Call Street Benny Brook Culvert. That one, we're not sure yet. We're working with the contractor was just named for that project last month, and we're waiting for a schedule from that contractor. One of the things that we are noticing on all of our road and bridge projects, what I want to make everybody aware of, is they're coming in significantly over budget. And with that being said, DOT is seeing this as well. All the road preservation projects are fine, but the bridge projects are anywhere from, and I have kind of the last couple ones that were done with one of our consultants, 35% over the engineer's estimate, 45% over the engineer's estimate, 53% over the engineer's estimate. Our Call Street one was 45% over the engineer's estimate. We have funding in our transfers to capital projects. Also, a lot of our road construction projects for this year are complete, are in-house ones. So we have some money left over in those. So we would not look to kind of add or create any new money. And on those culvert projects, we can't go back to DOT and ask them for more money. What those estimates were, we submitted for, which were good when we submitted them, is what they provided us funding for. There is no extra money to them. It's not like the federal aid projects. So with that being said, we don't think we need to create any more money. We think we have leftover money or savings in some of our projects that we can transfer that money in those eventually when we need it.
Okay, I just want to mention given the ARPA money that we've received and our financial situation, you know, we put up a lot of reconstruction for paving these last few years, and because the reconstruction costs so much money. And so, you know, maybe if it would be good, and I'll open it up to the committee, the idea that maybe, Kevin, you could prepare a list of the reconstruction projects you're looking at here in Warren County for the next committee meeting, so that we can take a look at where they are, how much it's going to cost, the whole enchilada, because I'm sure it goes into the millions. And I'm sure they're all over the place. I know we have at least one Apple Road in Bolton, and I'm sure there are others. It keeps getting put off because they're reconstruction projects and they're so expensive to do reconstruction. They go further with the repaving, but as reconstructed roads that need reconstruction, they just get worse and worse, and the level of maintenance that's required goes up and up and up. And it's only a matter of time before. So, Kevin?
Yeah, and as you're all aware, when we talked about the road projects for this year and next year, there was initial talk of bonding the money for these road projects. We had enough in the budget this year because what we said we were going to do this year was all our corner preservation type projects, overlays, mill and fills, and then next year would be our reconstruction year. I think next year, based on the last review of our projects, we're looking at $6.5 million or $6.4 million worth of projects for next year. And mainly because they're all reconstruction projects. Also, with that kind of savings that we had this year, there's two extra projects that we want to get into this year. One of them, where we already budgeted money for, was Harrisburg Road out in Stony Creek. And the other one is the backside of County Route 11 from New Vermont Road down to 9N. Those are two other projects that we're hoping to get in this year, but we're not sure we're fully funded. That was that extra, not extra money, but it was the EWR money that we weren't expecting, that we did expect or did receive from New York State DOT, that we'll be using on Harrisburg, and then some of the savings on some of the other projects we'll use on County Route 11. But again, I think it's about $6.5 million worth of roads for next year.
But if you could get that list out, in fact, I provided to the whole board.
I can.
And now what the department and the leadership, the budget officer decide you can and can't do, that's another question, of course. That's a budgetary question. But the need, whatever the need is, I think that we all should be really clear on that. We may not get another opportunity like this, certainly in our lifetime. So that's just one capital item. I'm sure that has to compete with many other types of capital items. So the more informed we are on what the county's capital needs are, I think help us all be, you know, good decision makers. If that's acceptable, let's get that list out. And I'm sure you're going to be having meetings with Frank and and county administrator and others, and with everything that's out there. All right, is that it, Cut?
One last thing, and this just came about. So most of you know, we've been working on Middleton Bridge probably for, since I've been here at the county, 13 years. It's been a long process, and reason being is because we were going to move the bridge north of its current location. We had to go through 2 legislative sessions at the state level to get that land bank, because some of that land is considered forest reserve. So all that is said and done now. Now the next step with DOT is to work through the historical properties, what they consider like a section 4F. They went to another extreme with this and considered this to be, because we're in the forest preserve, because it's national historical land, to an individual 4F, which is taking us a little bit longer. We're expecting over this next year, they'll finish that individual 4F. And then from there, we will go into the final design, which is being done concurrently along with this individual 4F. By October of next year, we hope to have, and it's all dependent upon DOT and Federal Highway, their concurrence to move forward to go out to bid for construction. So we're expecting somewhere in 2023 for that Middleton Bridge to be constructed. Now, with that being said, one of the criteria is this individual 4F is to advertise the current Middleton Bridge for sale or for, put it up as, and I believe Don Lehman put it up on the website yesterday, if anybody would want to take that bridge. Now, there's going to be stipulations to go along with that they take that bridge and restore it somewhere. I'm not sure that we're going to have any takers. We will see what happens. It has to be up for 6 months. Based on the agreement with DOT and Federal Highway. So just in case someone says, say, hey, the county has a bridge for sale, to some degree we do, or just offering. But now we're not sure yet whether if we get 5 offers, what's going to end up happening. But it's going to be incumbent upon whoever, if there is somebody to take that bridge, they are to take it and follow all the guidelines and procedures as part of the agreement, which is to go, whether they take it apart, put it on a truck, whatever they may do, they have to replace it somewhere else. I don't think anybody's going to do it. I think it's cost prohibitive. If that happens that during the 6-month period, we get no takers, that bridge will be demolished and removed as part of the project.
Well, I think it's great that you brought that project up today, because the public doesn't always understand how long these things take, particularly when you needed a constitutional amendment, right?
Yes.
On top of everything else as part of the process. So hopefully those that watch this or read the minutes realize that this is an ongoing project. It's just that we have a process we're following, and it does take a long time. But it looks like we're making progress.
Slowly.
Okay. All right, anything else come before the committee today? John, anybody in the public?
Hi, Chairman Conover. Nothing on YouTube.
Nothing on YouTube. Any other matters, Mr. Leggett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last week, I was up at the North Warren Chamber of Commerce parking lot. 2 people rode in on their bicycles. They had just completed 40 miles of roads that included state, town, and county roads. They had been staying up in the town of Johnsburg, Garnet Lake, and had been touring all through the region. Obviously, they're very active bicyclists, and they are very impressed with the condition of our roads through our county. It surpasses anything that, that's why they're here riding and not over in Vermont. So good progress on all the roads, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters? Carolyn's got a motion to adjourn. So moved. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, second. Mr. Garrity on the second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
Yep.